Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Man, what a blessing it is to be able to have the belief where we can enter into the Sabbath day's rest, to remember the Sabbath, to keep the Sabbath. Man, I hope everybody is having a blessed day, a blessed week. Hope you're able to allow your bodies the opportunity to rest and recover, and then to be reset in preparation for Yom Day 1 tomorrow. Man, to those that are keeping the Passover, you know, shout out to you for doing what is separate from the rest of the world. You know, I myself am not keeping the Passover at this current time. And today I'm going to explain why. So when we look up the etymology of the word Easter, the etymology is Passover. And you can use a concordance to do that. Me saying that I'm not keeping the Passover right now doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep the feast. But what I am going to do is keep the Passover according to what the word says. And this is where I need brothers and sisters out there that have been walking and keeping the commandments to engage in conversation, with this. So before we get going, something appeared off to me, and it could be to my own error. It could be because I'm missing something. So if you have the understanding and knowledge to be able to help me out on this, I would appreciate it. Before we get into the word, I'm going to show you something. Okay. Numbers chapter 9, verse 2 through 14. That's the instruction for keeping the Passover. And Moses spoke unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at evening in the wilderness of Sinai. Pull out something to write with, record these scriptures, highlight the 14th day of the first month. Okay? When we look at the Hebrew calendar and we look at the first month being Nisan, when does the month of Nisan start in 2024? Okay. Let me go to this because I want to make sure you guys get this. So if you do just a little research, the month of Nisan, the biblical first month, starts on 9 April. And here we are, 23 March. This is why I say something is off. Now, I grew up going to a public school system. And this is where I want you guys to let me know, is my calculations off? And this is why I'm giving you the data so you can go back and look it up yourself. If you look up when it's Passover in 2024, you're going to get Monday the 22nd starting in the evening. And that's April the 22nd. So if the month of Nisan starts 9 April, for me, it seemed a little off that some choose to take it now. And I tell you this, in these last days, it's better to keep these feasts based upon your understanding than to not keep them at all. I'll say that much. So shout out to those keeping it. But when we look at the month of Nisan starting on 9 April, let's do some counting. And I'm going to use these digits. 9 April, 10 April, 11 April, 12 April, 13 April, 14 April, 15 April, 16 April, 17th April, 19th April, 18th April, 19th, 20, 21st, 22nd. That's 14 days right there. I went through a whole set of these and then 4, 9 April, 10 April, 11 April, 12 April, 13th April, 14th April, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22. And the word says, keep the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at the evening. So I was like, man, that 22 April fell right in line with the word based upon my understanding of the word and then the Hebrew calendar. So when I say I'm going to be keeping it starting Monday, 22 April, there was my justification in how did I come up to that date. All right. So if anybody could help me with that, let me know. Because when you look at the Christian observance, it said that they're going to be keeping it on Sunday, the 31st of March. That's Easter Sunday. And I said, man, this something ain't right, because here we are a month early. A month early. Could be my error, could be the errors of others, but at least I'm trying to seek out and source the truth based upon the word that we have. Today's Shabbat message is keeping your word. Does your word hold weight in the kingdom? When you think about keeping your word, this is addressed in the law of the Most High. It's addressed in the Torah. Oftentimes we push to the forefront things that seem to have a little bit more weight, whether it be sexual immorality, fornication, adultery, idolatry, covetousness. But we oftentimes don't look at the fullness of the law when it comes to keeping your word and not keeping your word as being sin, and sin being the transgression of the law. As usual, Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy Yah. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. I got brother Maurice Delva said, I heard something different as well. He was based on the moon. He gave scripture from the book of Enoch, from the Apocrypha. I'm going to have to listen to it again. It was really interesting and caught my ear. Hey, I didn't catch that. So definitely please send that to me. Send that to me over Facebook, because I want to make sure we get to the truth, especially being in the last days. And like I said, it is a big, effort and move just to be keeping the feast regardless, because we know the world is not going to keep the feast. All right. So keeping your word, John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with the Most High, and the Word was the Most High. The same was in the beginning with the Most High. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended not. When you think about the word, giving your word, keeping your word, the word of the Most High Yah is undefeated. It stood the test of time from the beginning to now, and he gives us his word. All right. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 20. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So Messiah did not come to destroy the law or any of the laws about keeping your word, making a vow. When Messiah gave his word, he kept it. And this is him fulfilling or living out or carrying out, as we've looked at the etymology of that, the law. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. When you look at the word commandments in the Bible, I highly recommend you look at the etymology in whatever particular verse that you are looking at, because you will see that word used, but when you dig a layer deeper, you're going to see a different etymology in different places throughout the scripture. And this has a lot to do with the penmanship of the scribes being in vain to try to throw you off. So commandments in Matthew chapter 5 verse 19 is G1785. An order, instruction, precept, a rule, or authoritative prescription. Okay? For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Moving on to James chapter 2, verse 8 to 13. Because this is something in the last days that we want to make sure that we are adhering to. Man, there's times in life where you might have a peer, a coworker or something. I'm going to show you how simple it is not to keep your word. When people are going their own way, sometimes we overextend ourselves by giving a word that we know or we really don't intend on keeping. Somebody's parting ways and we say, "Oh man, I'm gonna miss you, brother. Hey, I'm gonna keep up with you, man. I'm gonna keep in touch, man, on a regular basis. You do all this. It sounds real good, real warming to the other person. And then what happens? A year goes by, 2 years go by, and you probably say that very same thing again and didn't keep the word, didn't keep your word. That's how simple this is when we look at it at the minute level. Keeping your word. I'm going to hit a part of this to show why many households have been torn apart due to not keeping your word, but by people that say that they love the Most High and love his truth. which is the word. James chapter 2, verse 8 through 13. If you really fulfill the royal law according to scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sins and are convicted by the law as a transgressor. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become guilty of it all. For he who has said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not murder. If you do not commit adultery, but do murder, you have become a transgressor of the law. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to no one, to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. So even when we look at the minute stuff that we may write off under the law, which I recommend we need not do, in these last days, we need to be trying to get more concrete and to make sure that we are in adherence to the small stuff that we see as, oh, that ain't no big deal. Oh, that was a little lie. And it doesn't matter what you tell yourself about how little it was. I can't even, you could give me, you could give me 500 fingers, and I guarantee you that wouldn't be enough behind adhering to the law of keeping your word. Numbers chapter 30, verse 1 through 2. Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of all the people of Israel, saying, this is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Man, oftentimes when it comes to keeping our word as men and women, we can tell a small lie, but we don't want to count that as deception. We don't want to be corrected on small lies. We'd rather keep the lie going than to say, dang, I didn't keep my word. And this is in the last days, your soul is going to be tested when you say things like you love Jesus, you love Messiah. And this is why I say this is important, because saying it may sound good to people, saying it may sound good to you, but we're not being judged in the end by what we can get ourselves to believe or people around us to believe, the court of public opinion to believe. When we hear the word talking about being a doer of the word, think about the word that you speak, and being a doer means to apply actions to those words. Think about that. How many people walking around talking about I love Jesus? Do they love the blessings that he gives to the just and the unjust, far as the sun shining on them? Or do they love what the word says that stood the test of time? In the last days, man, the soul is going to be tested. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21 through 23. If you make a vow to the Lord your Yah, you shall not delay fulfilling it. For the Lord your Yah will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from vowing, you will not be guilty of sin. You shall be careful to do what has passed your lips, for you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your Yah what you have promised with your mouth. Man, deliverance should be a part of your life. Want to be delivered out of all these different spirits that cause us not to keep our word. You have to be cautious of making a vow to the Most High, saying, if you spare me and help me and deliver me out of this, man, I won't do it again. Oftentimes you can find yourself, I'll raise my hand and make a vow to the Most High and then don't keep your word. The Most High, when this word is talking about you volunteering this vow, it would have been better off if you were focused on the actual deliverance piece than to make a vow that you didn't plan on keeping. That's the dangerous part. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. Anytime you don't keep your word, especially to a brother or to a sister, man, you are inflicting trauma on them. Oftentimes we like to look at the stuff that we call bigger sins. Adultery. I can't believe he or she did that to me and hurt me so bad. And every time you don't keep your word as a man or a woman, you're causing pain, you're causing trauma, whether you realize it or not. And it's very important in these last days that you don't extend yourself further than what you have control over. It's better to say, hey, let me take care of what I got going on and this stuff that I'm currently working on, and let me get back with you, versus making a vow or giving your word that you're going to do something and you're not capable of doing it. Oftentimes you can do that just to appease somebody for the moment, but what's happening is, according to the law, you're guilty of not keeping your word. Man, you have to think about how many families have been torn, how many, friendships, relationships, families have been torn apart by money and people not keeping their word. It's very easy to give a word to deceive, but it takes more righteousness to keep that word. Hey, brother, I'm going through it. I'm going through it, and I wouldn't ask if I don't need it. Brother, is it possible for you to bless me with, $50, and I'll get it back to you within 30 days. Listen to this. Listen to how you will volunteer all of this reassurance in your word. 35 days has gone past. You made a vow, and 9 times out of 10, what will happen is this has caused a lot of people not to help people out because people don't keep their word. 35 days has gone past, and you inquire about the money that you lent out, and you may have not even asked for it to be repaid, but that brother gave you their word. People start ducking and dodging you. People start bringing up stuff that had nothing to do with the vow that they gave. Well, you remember that time that I, you know, uh, brought them cups to the cookout. I thought we was even. Like that's deception. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. First John chapter 1 verse 9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. But there's a level of accountability that has to go with that. Man, I sit back earlier in the week, and it was humbling, because when I was putting this together, I said, man, let me think far back as I can the times that I haven't kept my word. And I challenge all brothers and sisters to do this, to do some deep sea soul diving, purging. Man, you got to look at what the world has promoted far as this girlfriend and boyfriend culture that may have started for you in middle school, some people, elementary, maybe high school. But think about how many times you said you love somebody and it wasn't preceded with actions. It was just a carnal feeling that you felt. Man, I started thinking back and I said, man, there's more times that I haven't kept my word, you know, in the past 2 years. And once you start thinking about and that building up, man, you realize, whoa, this is pretty weighty, keeping your word. So just doing that will lead you to a place of repentance. Maybe you gave a word to shut somebody up for the moment, but later on, you didn't keep it. Maybe you hoped that they forgot the word that you gave, but the onus is still on you to keep it. Just as if you volunteer a vow to the Most High, He expects for you to keep it. James chapter 1, verse 22. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Man, that's action. Man, nobody can outdo the Most High in mercy. No matter how merciful we think we are, no matter how big of a heart we think we have, He is undefeated in keeping His word and showing mercy. Man, when you tell a brother or sister that you love them, in these last days, man, you better mean it. And you're going to be tested based upon actions. Oftentimes you hear me say, lip service is no good. This is why the people in the end, the word says, those that come to me and say, Lord, Lord, look what we've done in your name. And He says in the end, part ways, I don't know you. You've been lawless. Think about that. You've been an iniquity worker. And that iniquity spans across a wide plethora of the Torah. But this one right here is one that will catch a lot of people up if this goes unrepented. Matthew chapter 24, verse 35. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. Most High y'all don't have a problem with keeping His word. It's us in this fleshly body that has a problem keeping our word. Ecclesiastes 5:5. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. So you have to think. In the last couple years, man, my answers to request has changed significantly. I'll tell you, man, I used to be somebody to give a word to shut somebody up and to not keep it. Still will be a transgressor of the law, no matter what you come up with in your mind. But now it's transformed into if Yah wills it. Because What sense does it make for me to give a word, to give a promise when I'm not even in control of this breath that I was able to take in the morning? Think about that. Y'all willing, I'll be there. The last thing I want is somebody lording over me, standing over me as I lie there dead and gave a word when I didn't know how much time I had on the clock. You got to think the Most High Yah is undefeated in fulfilling his word in anything that he has promised. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 5. Every word of Yah proves true. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Could the Most High Yah be a shield if his word didn't prove true? No. You can't take refuge in nothing deceitful. There's no protection in it. Numbers chapter 23, verse 19 through 20. Yah is not man that he should lie. He's right here. He's giving us some separation. Don't think you like me. I set the example. I used the men that set an example for you. I gave you the perfect example, the sacrificial lamb. Yah is not man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. What do? Make a word and then change our mind, try to play fast and loose with the word we gave, manipulation, all of this. You don't have to worry about that with the Most High. He has said, and will he not do it? Where do you think people get the slogan or the catchphrase, won't he do it? That's how you know he's undefeated. But will we do it? We wouldn't have so much discord and foolishness if people were to keep their word. Or has he spoken and will he not fulfill it? Fulfill to carry out, execution, action base. Behold, I receive a command to bless. He has blessed, and I can't revoke it. We can't even stop the Most High Yah from keeping his word. That's how pure his word is. The goal is to try to get that pure, not make excuses why we can't keep our word when somebody's holding you accountable. Man, you know I'm going through it and I had this going on. The word tells you it's better to not vow than to vow and not pay. Psalms chapter 89, verse 34. I will not violate my covenant or alter the word that went forth from my lips. Man, we look at Jeremiah chapter 3, Jeremiah chapter 31. We look at the new covenant. We look at Jeremiah 3, the Most High Yah divorcing Israel. Did Israel keep their word? We look at modern day divorce. Did we keep our word? Most High Yah kept his. We're the ones that need to work on keeping our word. Man, in this past year, man, I know my wife asked a lot of me, and that's to be expected righteously. You know, man, I said I'm going to do better with trying to keep my word so I'm not found in transgression. And that led to me putting a dry erase board on my bedroom wall right beside my bed. So as soon as I swing my legs out the bed, I can look at it. And when I know I have a long laundry list of stuff that I need to do, man, I have to structure it in a way that I can keep track of it because I am human. And at the end of the day, it's no excuse for me giving my wife a word or making a vow and not keeping it. So that's just one method that I use to keep my word. And there's sometimes I still slip, even with that organization, but It's a humbling experience knowing the truth and what the goal is. It's always something to focus on. James chapter 1, verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You think about somebody that gives you a word, makes a verbal agreement with you, and then backslides, tries to weasel out of it. Because I'm gonna talk to you about some stuff in here today. You're gonna be like, man, that hits. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. This word today you're getting supports the process of renewing your mind based upon what's commonly accepted in the world. We look at politicians. Man, for a vote, those jokers will say anything. And they will provoke emotional stimuli, get the people riled up. And then if you were to write down everything that they said that they were going to do, listen to what I'm saying. They said they were going to do. You let it go 2-3 years into a term and see how much have they actually done that they said they would do to deceive you into getting the vote. But here's the thing, man. Everybody will walk around wanting you to think that they are with the truth, walking with Messiah, walking with Jesus. No matter what religion, denomination, doesn't matter. They will deceive you into thinking this, and then deceive you right in your face with these vows that they won't action. That by testing you may discern what is the will of Yah, what is good and acceptable and perfect. There's times where it's gonna be painful keeping your word, and I would challenge you to go through that pain of keeping your word so you understand how important and powerful words are. Man, there's times where I've put stuff on my board in my bedroom that I told my wife I was gonna do, and time just fly by. It may be 7, 8 at night, and I'm getting ready to get up in the shower, and I put a deadline. I say, Sugar Pie, I'm gonna get this done by this day. And I put it on, I stick it on the board. We have that agreement. She said, I know you will. Based upon my feelings of tiredness, do I take a shower, act like I didn't get that word? Or if it's something that can be done that night, do I go ahead and muster up the strength given by the Most High Yah to go ahead and complete it? That way I can be seen as a trustworthy person of keeping my word. And sometimes it is painful keeping your word, but man, it feels so good knowing that your word holds weight. Some people's word don't hold any weight in any capacity in life. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. This is very important right here because this is why a lot of people tell what they call little lies, and then these lies compound into bigger lies. Keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. The Most High is not going to abandon you, or he's not going to hurt you, forsake you. But when we look at us, we will leave and forsake people when we haven't kept our word. Man, my wife gave me a good rebuke, and I was like, man, that was good. Because I knew what the word said. And then in the moment I received it, man, I knew, man, I had work to do. Knew I had work to do. And it had to do with properly reporting cash profits on the taxes for our business. And I said, man, I got to do better. I got to do better at tracking, because sometimes you're going to be tested by way of a question. And either in that question, you're going to prove that you are a keeper of the word, or you're going to prove that you are telling a lie. So we were sitting down at our tax office, and the tax guy that does our taxes for our business sits up there and says, do you have any cash profits that you would like to report? And almost instantly, it wasn't a spirit of truth. I said, no. And later on, getting the rebuke from my wife, that was a lie, because even though I might have justified it, it still wasn't right. Because I'm looking at if it's cash, it didn't happen. Not reporting that to the government, but going forward, I was like, man, that's a correction that definitely needed to be made for salvation's sake. So I'm thankful that my wife was able to give me that and me to be able to receive it. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19. When there are many words, listen to this. When there are many words, transgression and offense are unavoidable. So when you start talking too much, you're going to start transgressing the laws and offend. And it says that's unavoidable. But he who controls his lips and keeps thoughtful silence is wise. Sometimes, man, it's better off to put the shut to the up. And instead of trying to tickle somebody's ears, trying to make somebody feel good, it's better to control those lips and keep silent. Here's another one. Think about how many churches you got in your local area, led by so-called men of God that love the word, teach the word. Think about all the widows out there. And when have you heard for these churches to say, hey, man, we're advertising to the widows. We want the widows. If you are a widow and you are a believer, we're here to support you. You don't have to struggle because you've lost your husband and your kids are now fatherless. We'll cover you. How many times have you heard that? But what does the word say? The word says pure religion, undefiled before the Most High Yah, is to cover the widows and the orphans or the fatherless in their affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted for the world. But what's more important to a lot of these people? The love of money. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to do anything that you call religious and it doesn't add up to that, it ain't worth a dang. But a lot of these places will have widows in their congregation and not once ask, do these widows need anything? Because they know they're uncovered and without a covering. But yet they'll sit up and put guilt trips of sowing seeds on them. Take all this money from them. It's a shame. Romans chapter 16, verse 17 through 19. I appeal to you, brothers, to watch out for those who cause division and create obstacles contrary to the doctrine that you have been taught. Avoid them. So just because somebody says that they are a man or woman of God and they love Jesus, you have to understand, man, what are they sticking with? Are they sticking with the doctrine of the Most High, yes, that stood the test of time, which is his word? Are they introducing things that's nowhere in the 66 books, the 80 books, or how many ever books that will ever be declared? How many men have gone out and created their own doctrine due to carnal wisdom that's not wisdom from the Most High and led people astray. It tells us to avoid them. For such persons does not serve our Lord Mashiach, but their own appetites. You got to think, man. When you look up the rapture, when you look up the Trinitarian doctrine, this is stuff that you don't find in the Bible that you can pinpoint with simple studying. Who came up with that? And look at how people have wasted so much time on this stuff that's unbiblical. For your obedience is known to all. Let me go back. For such persons does not serve our Lord Hamashiach, but their own appetites, and by smooth talk and flattery they deceive the hearts of the naive. For your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you, but I want you to be wise as to what is good and innocent as to what is evil. You have to think, people that serve their own appetites are trying to be exalted like Hasatan wanted to be exalted to the same level or above the Most High as the reason he had to be put out. So people will use the Bible not having any understanding, the Most High Yah not unlocking their understanding, will play fast and loose, try to twist the words and come up with all these new vain concepts that ain't got nothing to do with righteousness, nothing to do with truth, only to deceive the hearts of the naive, to sell you books, to prophesy deceit, to gain a following. You got some of these people, man, they'll say anything for 1 million, 2 million followers. We got people out here. What is it? Them jokers called the Island Boy. We're hearing more celebrities tell stories about how they cut deals with Hasatan. And it only takes me one time to hear you talk about you cutting a deal with Hasatan and me getting the heck up out of Dodge. Because every breath you take is numbered, truly numbered. And you don't want to be hanging around these places because of, being a respecter of person. Oh, I like their style, I like their fashion, or I like what they stand for. And these people tell you that they cut a deal with Hasatan. Man, you better, if you are a keeper of your word, you better do your best to action your way up from away from these people. 1 John chapter 4, verse 1, beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are from the Most High. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. A lot of people have a hard time understanding that. See, man, it's okay to honor a man or a woman. And the word prescribes it. It tells us to, it commands us to. Man, honor the wife or the woman as the weaker vessel. Talked about weaker doesn't mean weak. Weaker means susceptible to give in under pressure. And you can correlate that to a piece of metal that's been hardened, that's been galvanized versus one that hasn't. The word tells woman to honor the man, honor mother and father. But what happens is, because carnally, man, we will be a respecter of persons, we will remove all of the human free will from somebody by exalting them to the place of perfection. And then when they don't keep their word, like humans have been known to do throughout the course of history, all of a sudden we're experiencing this supernatural trauma when we should have never exalted somebody to that level. And the word doesn't tell us to do that. You have to look at it, man. People exalt celebrities, they exalt politicians, they exalt pastors. preachers, ministers, whatever you want to call it, to the point where you take away that, man, these people are still human. These people are still on a journey. They're going to make mistakes. That's why the word is here to correct you, for reproof, for instruction. There's a difference between honor and exalting. First Thessalonians 5:21, but test everything, hold fast what is good. In saying that, man, you want to hold on to people that keep their word. Some people don't even know that they don't keep their word. You know why? Because they're not focused on it. They're not meditating on a daily basis about keeping their word, because it's self-centered. It's selfish. The love of self. It says in the last days, people will become lovers of self, not lovers of the truth, not lovers of the law, not lovers of keeping their word. You must separate yourself from people that don't keep their word and hope that one day that they walk in truth. Memorizing scriptures, you know, studying the Bible, but applying no action of obedience to the word is not walking in truth. You can sit anybody's down, and it's been proven with animals that you can get them to study stuff and remember things, but that doesn't mean there's an application. First Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1 through 6. For you yourselves know, brothers, that our coming to you was not in vain. But though we had already suffered and been shamefully treated at Philippi, as you know, we had boldness in our Yah to declare to you the gospel of Yah in the midst of much conflict. You got to understand, man, delivering the gospel in much conflict, man, that is the carrying out of your lips saying you love Messiah or you love the Most High. For our appeal does not spring from error or impurity or any attempt to deceive, but just as we have been approved by Yah to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak, not to please men, but to please Yah who tests our hearts. Yah is testing your heart to see if you're going to keep your word. Are you wise enough to silence yourself and not give a word rather than to be found in transgression of the law? For we never came with words of flattery. Think about this. Oftentimes, when somebody is deceiving you, man, I'll tell you, as a sinner, man, before being born again, this is how you talk somebody out of their draws. Flattery, smooth nothings, smooth thing. Yeah, we gonna be together. You the one, only one. As you know, nor with a pretext for greed. What are you greedy for in that context? You want what's in between her legs, but you don't want to fulfill a righteous duty. You just want the booty, and vice versa. Yah is witness. Nor did we seek glory from people, whether from you or from others, though we could have made demands as an apostle of Hamashiach. They chose not to. They knew they could deceive people with flattery, but they chose not to. You have to be mindful when it comes to, do you want people, are you seeking glory from people, or are you seeking the glory from the Most High? Are you seeking his validation and his approval, or are you seeking approval from people? And that right there is what's gonna determine which path you go. Do you take the narrow path, or do you take the wide path that the world who cannot receive the spirit of truth because it does not know him or see him, they're going to take that wide path. You got to think, man, there's all kind of scams and people promoting stuff, and it's nothing but deception. Why? For the love of money, greed. Their God is their belly. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 1 through 23. My son, keep my words and treasure up my commandments with you. Keep my commandments and live. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablets of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call insight your intimate friend, to keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress, her smooth words. For at the window of my house I have looked out through the lattice, and I have seen among the simple, I have perceived among youth a young man lacking sense. This is the naive. Passing along the street near her corner, taking the road to her house, in the twilight, in the evening, at the time of night and darkness, and behold, the woman meets him, dressed as a prostitute, willy of heart. Man, you got to think, a prostitute, a harlot, you have men that pay to hear these smooth words. And it ain't no action other than fornication and whoremongering behind it. She is loud and wayward. Her feet do not stay at home. She's not grounded. Now in the street, now in the market, and at every corner, she lies in wait. She seizes him and kisses him. What would that make you do? That make you feel good. And behold, and with a bold face, she says to him, I had to offer sacrifices, and today I have paid my vows. She's telling you, a harlot saying, I've kept my word. So now I have come out to meet you, to seek you eagerly, and I have found you. I have spread my couch with coverings, colored linens from Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love till morning. This is the enticement of a harlot. Both men and women have done this. Let us delight ourselves with love, for my husband is not at home. Think about all the flattery that was in there. The smell of that bed, cinnamon, aloe, the linens. You like, oh, them 500 thread count sheets. Ooh. For my husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He took a bag of money with him. At full moon, he will come home. With much seductive speech, she persuades him. With her smooth talk, she compels him. All at once, he follows her, as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a stag is caught fast, till an arrow pierces its liver, as a bird rushes into a snare. He does not know that it will cost him his life. This is the other end of a deceitful word. This is somebody on the opposite end of a deceitful word. And that's the pain. It could cost you your life. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 3 through 4. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey. Everybody like honey. Well, he's like, ooh, that's good honey right there. Organic. And her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Oftentimes we talk about the false prophet, the man that sneak in and lead women astray. This is the other side of it. Psalms chapter 55, verse 20 through 21. My companion stretched out his hand against his friend. He violated his covenant. His speech was smooth as butter, yet war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. This is oftentimes when we look at a deceiving word, words of flattery that we don't plan on keeping, or we have an ill intent or malice, in our heart. That's why you're not able to keep the word. Keep your word. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. Man, you have to think. When you give your word and keep it, does it make somebody glad? That'll make somebody glad. Man, I'm glad I didn't have to cut this brother off because, man, they kept their word. I'm glad I didn't have to avoid these people because they kept their word. Or when you give your word, does it cause anxiety in people's heart? Does it make them heavy laden because you didn't keep your word? Isaiah chapter 30, verse 9 through 10. That this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of the Lord. Let me tell you something. I don't care who they are. I don't care how long they've been in ministry. I don't care how much they love or tell you that they love God or Jesus. Man, if they, with their lips, tell you the law is done away with, you are looking at somebody that will lie to you. And they promote lying because the law addresses keeping your word. The world does not. Which say to the seer, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceit. This is why so many people get led astray because they don't want to hear the word. They want to hear things that make them feel good about the sinful life that they're living, and for somebody to tell them that they're walking in truth and you're getting into the kingdom. That's a billion-dollar industry right there. Not giving right teachings, teaching deceit, and telling people, you join my ministry, you sow a seed in this ministry, you're going to make it into the kingdom. It's not what the word says. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. And before I say that, man, you have some people out here that show up every Sunday just to hear deceit, just to hear a man or a woman tell them, well done, my good and faithful servant. But them saying that is not based upon truth coming from the word that stood the test of time. No, that's based upon uh the standard that man has set forth, and whatever a man's desire that's moving in deceit, that desire being fulfilled by deceiving people, i.e., money. Billion-dollar industry. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. Man, that's why I told you, man, just today, if you've never done it before, take some time and think about, close your eyes, think about when you didn't keep your word. And I guarantee you, it's a long list. You can't even recall it. You couldn't even put a number to it. How many times you told your mama or daddy you loved them and you was gonna obey and you didn't? It would have been better if you would have remained silent. That's how far that goes back. Okay. Man, I want you to think about, we're gonna talk about credit reporting. When did this standard of credit come about? Man, when you look at credit and what it is a gauge of, man, it's a gauge of trustworthiness. And you have some people that can even manipulate that. Okay. So this is not about pushing credit. That's not what this part of the message is about. But it's to show you, does your word hold weight? If the Most High Yah had to give you a credit score, a beacon score, a FICO score, man, what would that score be in reference to keeping your word? Based upon what you tell people, based upon what you say, oh yeah, I'm trustworthy. And the word says we're supposed to test the spirit So we're supposed to take people's word at face value? Or when people give a vow, are we supposed to test it? Letting that time pay out. You said you was going to pay in 30 days. Nobody had a gun to your head and made you come up with those terms. The origins of credit reporting. Credit reporting began before there were plastic cards and digital wallets. Transactions began to be noted in the 1800s as people first started to report them. Prior to today's credit cards, forms of credit include charge coins, 1860s, money order, 1880s, traveler's checks, 1890s, and charge plates, 1930. The Mercantile Agency was founded in 1841 to keep track of information about consumers, borrowers, and lenders throughout New York City. This was deemed necessary due to merchants overusing their credit. And while the credit information of this era was important, it was often subjective and therefore didn't always provide helpful guidance. That's where Bill Fair, an engineer, and Earl Isaac, a mathematician, came into play. They founded the Fair Isaac Corporation, FICO, in 1956, where they developed a credit scoring system. You got to think about the Most High Yah's word. Man, he's going to evaluate us based upon his word to help standardize a way to calculate a score and categorize it. The company started selling their method to lenders in 1958. Why would it be important to sell this to lenders? That's people that have and are able to give to others. Everybody's not deserving of giving to when we're talking about in the realm of this, which then became a regularly used method by credit reporting agencies in the 1970s. 1989, the FICO score was first introduced by FICO, then called Fair Isaac and Company. The FICO model is used by the vast majority of banks and credit grantors as is based on consumer credit files on three national credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Man, you have to think about how many people will walk to a lender, walk into a car dealership, walk into X, Y, and Z, and then say, oh, yeah, I'm good for it. And you got to think the reason why we have to have contracts because people won't keep their word. I'm good for it. You know, I would never do you like that. Come on now, you know me. People lay it on thick. Flattery, deceit. Man, you look good. You lost weight? Man, I think I want that one over there, but I'm going to have to pay you back on it. Think about that. When we look at wedding vows in the last days, man, this is really going to get bad. The book doesn't say it's going to get better for the world. What are the most common wedding vows? People sit up and say this, sound religious, but sometimes people keep their word. In the name of God, I take you and take you such and such to be my husband or wife, to have and to hold from this day forward. Sounds real romantic, for better or for worse, for poor or in sickness, in health, to love and to cherish until we are parted by death. Nobody held a gun to your head and told you to say that. But what happens is you volunteer this stuff and don't keep it. Man, marriage is a beautiful thing when you know who created the standard for marriage. Are you going to trust the Most High Yah, or are you going to trust this family court system that will allow two women or two men to get married, but they say, in God we trust? Man, most people don't want the for poorer. You look at the reasons for divorce, financial issues. That's an example of for poor. We say all this in flattery, tickle somebody's ears to get them to commit to us. In sickness, man, your spouse fall ill. All of a sudden, this illness drives a wedge right in between the sexual intimacy. Are you going to keep your word based upon that vow that you gave? Or are you going to love yourself as what will be prevalent in the last days? People will become lovers of self and start justifying sin and adultery and wickedness. I never asked for him to get sick. I don't deserve that. I'm worth more than that. I didn't deserve for her to be sick and not be capable. Wait a minute, you made a vow for this. But then better if you just put the shut to the up than to make a vow and not keep it. This is my solemn vow. This is like if you Google common vows, this is it. This is my solemn vow. I promise to always fight for you. Mm. So we looking at these divorce rates, we seeing more people fighting for their partner or fighting with their partner. Pursue you. What point did you stop pursuing? And love you wholeheartedly and unconditional. Then you start to find out, dang, they got all these conditions on this love for the rest of my life. People keep that? Or do they change up the terms as they go based upon their feelings and emotions? I promise to be your shoulder to cry on as you were for me. I vow to dream with you. Some of this stuff is just flat. Dream with you, laugh with you, celebrate with you, comfort you, and walk beside you through whatever life brings. Look at the statistics. That goes to show you more than 50% of people won't keep their word, not in marriage. This is why this message is important. Here's another one. When you walked into my life, love walked into. Think about that. Think about how you can exalt somebody so high by saying this, and there be no love for Yah in there. I vow to love you as you love me through all hardships, darkness, and pain to reach for our joys, our hopes, and always with honesty and faith. Time is always on my side when I'm with you. These are vows that people say to each other. Your partner don't give you time. The Most High Yah gives you time. But this is what it said. Doesn't the word say people will give an account for every careless word that they speak? Better be careful calling yourself flattering, romantic. You better be able to keep all of that. I vow to be as much of a rock for you as you have been for me. Here's another one. Just giving you some statistics. How many cars are repossessed each year in the US? Right now, we are at the highest car repossession rate because people gave a word, signing a promissory note that they would pay, agreed to the terms. According to car repossession statistics of 2023 of the United States data from 2021 to 2022, 2.2 million vehicles were repoed yearly. An average of about 5,418 per day were repossessed. And each hour, 226 cars were repossessed, which average about 3,760 vehicles per minute. 76 vehicles per minute. And you got to think about it. People signed this documents, didn't pay up. This is why things that are out of your control, like this is why the Most High tells us not to enter into certain contracts, not to cut no deal, not to doggone rack up all this debt, because There's certain things that's not in your control. You can't control if somebody gonna fire you, but yet we give our word through contract or through verbal agreement, then we're not able to keep it. And this is just showing you some of the ramifications of not keeping your word. The share of married Americans has fallen to 45%, down from 50% in 2015. At the same time, the share of Americans who are not in a romantic relationship rose to 37% from 32 over the same period of time. I want you to understand good looks, height, weight, booty, muscles, all of that stuff goes out the window, especially when you got somebody that don't keep their word. But people value all of the vain stuff and choose not to see the red flags in people that don't keep their word. And this is where you can like somebody too much to the point where you exalt them and you don't test the spirit in them. You're never seeing if they keep their word because they too busy tickling your ears, making you feel good in a void that should be filled by the Most High Yah's love. Recent data shows that around 30 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. This means that while rates have steadied somewhat, nearly half of first marriages still grappled with dissolution. Research by the National Library of Medicine revealed that the three most common reasons spouses divorce, or the number one, is lack of commitment. Think about that. Lack of commitment. Commitment how? Actions, keeping your word. Man, I'm telling you, man, I don't know how much time each one of us has left on the clock. Most High Yah doesn't let us know. We're not going to know the day, time, nor hour. But one thing you can rest assured, if you want your name recorded in the Lamb's Book of Life, if you want to be counted as righteous, as those in Hebrews chapter 11, don't deceive yourself into thinking that you will be allowed into the kingdom and called great, when in all actuality, you will be called least in the kingdom because you didn't keep your word. Today, I want to ask you, does your word hold weight? Does your word hold weight in the kingdom? And if it doesn't, only thing you have to do is apply action behind where you give your word. It may be wiser for you not to give your word. That way you can't be held to a standard that you helped create. Man, I hope you guys truly got something out of this teaching. Give all glory to the Most High Yah for pointing me in this direction of being able to hit something that seems so simple, but is violated so often, you know? And this is something that, in being self-aware, I had to realize, man, I got to do better on this, man. Just the simple stuff. Hey, I'm going to do this for you. Yeah, I'm going to help you out, man. If you ever need any help, let me know. And when that brother calls, you don't keep your word. You start ducking and dodging. It should be on your heart to when you give your word, brother says, hey, he called you up. Hey, I need some help. It might be the Sabbath. Hey, I can't do that. But hey, brother, I got you on first day. Got you on Sunday. I may even be able to bring somebody with me. At least you're trying to lean towards the direction of keeping your word versus avoiding it. Why they calling me? They calling me because you said you would help when they were in need. Maurice Deva said, we did very simple but direct. And this message is for those that have ears to hear. Man, you'll have people that look at this, and because it's not Trinity, because it's not the rapture, they'll be like, oh, I ain't watching that. It's too simple. Hey, it's this simple stuff that's going to catch you up, that's going to hang you up at Judgment Day. Man, I appreciate Maurice Delva, McCoy White, Mark AZ, Nathaniel Nelson, Timothy Shropshire. Man, I'll speak on something that's currently going on. And, I'll tell you that if you follow Straightway, there's something going on. But I'll tell you to let the cards fall where they need to fall. Don't rush the hand of trying to get the cards to fall where they need to based upon your feelings, your opinions and emotions. Don't be a respecter of persons where you're not privy to details and things like that. You can end up desiring the entertainment of it and end up being a false witness or a gossiper in the process and be a transgressor and not even realize it just because something in your spirit might like the entertainment of it. But I would strongly encourage you not to do that and let the dust settle. Let the dust settle as, man, we want all brothers to be able to walk upright. And at the end of the day, I can tell you who will get to the bottom of it. May not be me, another brother, or another leader, but the Most High Yah will, Messiah will. So sometimes it's better, especially when you're removed from the situation and don't have context, man, it's better to not take no sides or none of that, or don't even try to insert yourself. Focus on things like what I gave you today, keeping your word. Because saying you love a brother, that's got to be followed by action. That doesn't mean that love is always going to be pleasing to your brother, but it might be pleasing to the Most High. So that's what I would encourage you on that. There's people out there that's probably cutting and clipping this thing all up, the minions of other people when they ducking and dodging truth that they know they didn't duck and dodge. So move wisely in these last days. Don't be on a journey that the Most High Yah has you in, and being in a position that where he wants you, and you jump off that position to get in somewhere else to throw in your 2 cents. Me personally, I don't have no 2 cents because it's not none of my business. You see what I'm saying? I'm not privy to details. So I'm going to stick to keeping my word, and not focusing on stuff that doesn't concern me. So that's my recommendation. And in due time, if it's meant to be known, man, the Most High Yah will deal with it. Most High Yah will make sure that what happens happens, and that's just as simple as it is. That's trust in the Most High. So I hope everybody has a blessed rest day. Continue to rest. Don't feel like you entering into this rest is a waste of time because nobody else is doing it. We are in them last days, so make sure that you are setting yourself apart and you're not allowing that flesh to want to draw you back in amongst them, where the word that stood the test of time tells you to come out from among them. Glory to the Most High Yah. The day of judgment is near. Repent for your sins. The King is coming. Go in peace. Go in love. Shabbat Shalom. Closer to Yah Ministries, kicking that thing gun barrel straight. Bow.